Welcome to class today. Today we're going to be talking about commas. Some of this is going to be a review for you, and for some of you, you really struggle with this. Our objectives today, students will be able to use commas in a list. This one you guys probably, most of you have mastered. Use commas in compound sentences. We're going to talk about what those are. And use commas for introductory words, which there are a few different kinds that you're allowed to mess with. So here we go. I do want to talk about how this applies to your research paper. First of all, great job! You finished the research paper! Or at least you finished the rough draft. Yeah! Yay for strong starts. After your rough draft, what you need to do is on Wednesday, you're going to take the quiz on the plan for the day, and it's going to ask you what kind of a revision method you want to use, and that was in last week's video. Then, on May 5th, your final copy is due. Your final copy is going to be graded based on the rubric that you found in that original assignment. It has 5 different criteria, different things that it's looking for, and then 4 different levels ranging from this was a poorly executed to really well executed. One of those things is sentences and mechanics, and that's essentially when they're talking about grammar. So I wanted to highlight that part of the rubric because it directly applies to our class today. So if you get 1 out of 4 points, so if you're level 1, many of your sentences contain errors in structure, multiple errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics, making the paper difficult to understand. Not where you want to be. If you get 2 out of 4 points, it means sentences do not all contain complete thoughts. There are several unintentional fragments and run-ons. There are errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics that sometimes interfere with the reader's ability to understand. If you get 3 out of 4 points on this thing, and this is a pretty good place to be. I realize it doesn't sound very good to be like 3 out of 4, that's like 75%. No, 3 out of 4, good job. You're an emerging writer, you don't need to be perfect yet, but this is right about where I expect most of you to be. It says most sentences contain complete thoughts. There are few errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics, and they rarely interfere with a reader's ability to understand. If you don't have all your commas in the exact right place, but most of the time your errors don't interfere with what you're trying to say or your level of professionalism or tone, you'll probably be sitting pretty here. However, what we're aiming for, our stretch goal, each sentence expresses a complete thought. There are extremely few errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics, and those that do exist do not impede understanding. This is a crystal clear paper, which everyone should be shooting for. Pre-learning activity, go ahead and type it in the chat box when it pops up. What do you think commas are used for? What is their function as a sentence? We have a little example of what life would be like if there were no commas. I have to take a deep breath to get ready for this. Sometimes when you think you love something, what you really love is not the thing itself, but just some small and inessential part of it. You think you love banana splits, but really you just love the maraschino cherry on top. And you think you love autumn, but really you just love getting a pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks. And you think you love Shrek, but really you just love that montage near the end after Shrek and Fiona have their falling out when he's sitting in his swamp all alone and she's getting ready for her wedding and Rufus Wainwright's cover of Hallelujah is playing in the background. It's kind of tough to live without commas. So this is an example of a huge run-on sentence where the author didn't have any commas to cue for the reader the flow of the sentence. So there are a couple different ways, like we talked about, that you're going to be able to use commas after this lesson. In a series or a list, in compound sentences, and introductory words. Most of the time when we think about something being in a series or in a list, we think about like a grocery list or a to-do list. But you use lists all the time in your speaking and writing, and those lists should be punctuated with commas. For example, if I say, Ms. Gibson loves to play, sing, and leap about, you can see I have a little asterisk by that sentence because it's grammatically incorrect. That means that there should be some punctuation in it. Go ahead and there's the incorrect sentence on the board. From your examples on the side, click the one that is punctuated correctly. Miss Gibson loves to play comma, sing, comma, and leap about. I won't demo for you. You need commas after every item in a list except the last item. For example, he was bouncing, singing, and flying all over the place. So the last item in the list usually flows into what you're trying to convey. For your Dropbox assignment, you're going to have to write 2 examples of using commas in a list. On to compound sentences. Now we're going to do a little review of all the vocabulary that we use to talk about grammar. First of all, a sentence must have a subject and a verb, right? I eat. A subject, I, who is the person or thing that completes an action, and then eat is the verb. If a sentence has 2 subjects and 2 verbs, then it's a compound sentence because it could each be its own sentence because there are enough verbs and subjects to go around. You're like, oh, we've got 2 verbs and 2 subjects. Let's put 1 verb and 1 subject over here, 1 verb and 1 subject over here. Oh, these are kind of related. I think we should join up the sentences. That's what a compound sentence is. They're joined using a coordinating conjunction. Fancy grammar term. Coordinating conjunctions are transitions. They're very simple. All of you know most of these because we use them so much in real life. You can remember all of the coordinating conjunctions that exist using the acronym Femboys. So the coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. These are the things that you're going to need a comma for if your first sentence and your second sentence both have a subject and a verb and you want to turn them into one sentence. What coordinating conjunction would you use to join these 2 sentences? John loves rock climbing. I love biking. You could use a couple different ones. You could say, John loves rock climbing, but I love bike climbing. That kind of implies something different than saying, John loves rock climbing and I love biking. It's up to you. But notice, in each instance, you have your first complete sentence, John loves rock climbing, comma, then your coordinating conjunction, and I love biking, or but I love biking. So for each complete sentence, you need your comma and your coordinating conjunction. For your Dropbox assignment, you're going to need to write 2 examples of joining complete sentences or writing a compound sentence using a comma and a coordinating conjunction. With one more example, Captain America doesn't like swearing, but Nick Fury doesn't care. So that's just another example for you to see, okay, here's my first thought. Captain America doesn't like swearing. So we have a subject and a verb in that thought, right? Captain America doesn't like. And then in our second sentence, Nick Fury is the second subject. Doesn't care is the second verb. So you're allowed to join these sentences to create a compound sentence using a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Fanboys! Introductory words. This is the last function of commas that we're going to talk about today. There are a lot of ranges of different introductory words in a sentence, but I'm sure you all recognize why we use commas with them. Sometimes, you might begin a sentence with an introductory word, like, hey, do you know where the powdered sugar is? Nope, I haven't seen it. I probably should have done this with sock puppets, huh? Next time. Sure, I believe you. So if you're responding to a question or trying to get someone's attention, the first word of the sentence that you usually have a pause after in dialogue, you're going to have a comma right after it. So those are pretty ordinary words. Yes, no, sure, hey. They're kind of attention getters. The other thing that needs a comma after it because it's an introductory word is a person's name. If you say, James, will you help me with this? James needs a comma. Or, Cynthia, did you finish that masterpiece yet? When you're addressing someone directly, you want to have their name plus a comma. The last word or type of word that you would use a comma with when it's the first word in the sentence is a transition. For example, if you say, meanwhile, Elizabeth conquered the world. Or, additionally, you have to watch out for RUSs. Or, actually, we often buy new socks. Can you guys see any similarities between these words that come, these introductory words in these examples? Type in the chat box if you want to. Okay, all done. Many times these introductory words will be adverbs, words that usually end in ly and tell us how the action is performed. Quickly, he ran to the sofa, or happily, she ate her ice cream. In both of those examples, after quickly, there would be a comma, or after happily, there would be a comma. So we have 3 instances of when you can use commas with introductory words. When you're addressing someone directly using their name, or maybe answering or asking them a question with yes, no, sure, hey. Or when you have a transition, however, therefore, actually, quickly, suddenly. Those are all introductory words that you use commas with in writing. So, review the lesson. We learned how to use commas in a series, after every item in a list, but the last one. To join 2 sentences with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And remember, to do this, you have to have a verb and a subject in one, and a verb and a subject in the other. And then, after an like yes, no, when you use someone's name to talk to them, or when you have a transition as your first word, or an adverb telling someone how the action was performed. Our objectives today: use commas in a list, use commas in compound sentences, and use commas with introductory words. You're going to have to give 2 examples of each on your Dropbox assignment following the video. You can always email me with questions or catch me on IM. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great day.